Welcome to another episode of A Life Partner TV. I am your host, Dr. Mario, where we are supporting and leading couples to reconnect once again through awakening their feeling body. And today's episode is actually one that is very dear to me, and we're going to be getting into that pretty shortly. Before I do, I just want to remind everybody wherever you're tuning from, just let me know where you're actually tuning from. I love to take the questions from the audience when they're checking in. Just let me know what are the things that are coming up for you, especially about the topics that we discuss. And today is actually a really special topic because one that is really dear to my heart, and it's about break, heal, and strengthen. This is a special model that I've actually come up with after so many years of looking into what are the things that we can do to support ourselves to stop fighting. And here in the Alive Partner community, we see this a lot where people reach out and say, "Hey, Dr. Mario, I'm having this super difficult time in my relationship right now where, we are completely disconnected. Things are not working out. We're just fighting all the time. The magic has been lost. What can I do to actually stop fighting? How can I reconnect? How can I be trusted again? How can we rekindle? How can we do things that we connect to the point that we feel as though we're dating again?" And this is something that is really powerful because many couples are they're going through their journey, and the more time they spend together, what I have seen, and I know it from being a married man myself, is that we get into these particular routines where we simply forget and neglect to do the things that allowed us to connect with one another, just like when we were dating. And some people get to the point of believing and thinking, you know what, it is simply not possible for me to be able to have that again. It's not possible to be able to go in the opposite direction and create something completely new. And one of the things that I want to share with you today that is super important about this break, heal, and strengthen model that I'm going to be presenting to you today is people do change, and changes can absolutely happen in an instance. And I'll make a little parenthesis here to really speak to that because one of the most powerful things that we can do is to bring into our awareness, into our thinking, into our feeling that things in fact can change. And this is something that I have seen over and over and over in my career of being a physician for nearly 30 years. So if you have no concept of this, if you have no belief that in fact this is possible, please bear with me because there's so much evidence in the medical world, in the healthcare world, that in fact changes will happen. And all you have to think for a moment is, what if you were at the top of a mountain, you're looking down that cliff, that mountain, and there's a pool that you want to jump into, right? So that you can basically plunge into that little lagoon, if you will. But you miss to actually figure out how deep that spot actually was. And here you are at the very top of the hill, the mountain, and you basically jump in head first, only to find that the moment you get into the water, the bottom of that little pond is actually very shallow. And next thing you know, you're breaking your neck. Well, what's going to happen right after that is that your life is going to be immediately changed by that, right? You fracture your cervical spine, you have a spinal cord injury, and now you basically are paralyzed for the rest of your life. While this may seem to be a very dramatic example of creating change in an instant, I want to let you know that this is no different than what happens to the brain when you have a bad moment with somebody. The wiring, the connections, the chemistry, if you will, that is happening inside of us when those interactions happen are just as powerful as hitting the bottom of that lagoon and breaking your neck. And it creates very hardwired memories. But the point is, just like you were able to create that hardwired memory, it is also possible to create at will other things that you actually desire. And as it pertains to this conversation about how to improve the relationship, how to improve the communication, how to improve the connection, how to improve and deepen the intimacy, it is very possible to do that. But one of the things that is going to help us do that is to have a model. And let me just give a brief explanation here. The way the human brain works is such that we are looking for patterns. We look for things that we can actually just say, oh, I know that that's blue, that's red, that's white, that's a rectangle, that's a square. Pattern recognition is a very, very powerful way that our brains actually work. So, as I thought about if we were to actually get out of the bad rut of being in situations where we're just arguing, we are just not going forward where we want to go, we're not connecting, is there anything that we can do to be able to have a model, a pattern or a set of patterns that we can recognize, that we can bring into the moment and have tools to be able to snap out of those moments when we're just not connecting and everything is just going downhill and going downhill very quickly in that moment of disharmony, in that moment of arguing, fighting, and so on. And furthermore, if in fact we had a model to be able to do that and to be able to recognize it and put ourselves in it, meaning knowing where are we along that journey, is there anything that can be paired with that recognition that would allow me to stop it and move in the opposite direction and create a harmonious moment? And that is what I discovered after almost 3 decades of being in this journey of looking for these things, which I teach to my community here in the Alive Partner community. And I teach in my Alive Partner course and also to my mentees in the Wanted Men mentorship program and also in the Heart to Heart female specific mentorship program. And that is what I have come up with, which is called the Break, Heal, Strengthen model. So we're going to start with the first one here that I want to show you. And this is step number 1, which is basically the first phase of the model or the break phase of the model. You see, one of the things that is super powerful to recognize in this model is that a break or a breakdown is that moment where I like to think of it as it's a stormy phase, right? Everything has just heightened. Everything is just at the peak of the bad moment. It feels absolutely horrible. We're just clashing, very, very powerfully. And in these moments, there are tools that I teach, and I teach them very specifically in one of my programs called the 7-Day Stop Fighting Challenge. We start to recognize what are those things in that break phase that are the elements, right, that are not working. And I have created some tools that are very specific to be able to address how is it that I can get out of that stormy phase, that break phase of the break, heal, strengthen model. And in fact, I'm going to ask you to put your name below in the link that I've actually provided here so that if you're new to this content, to this material, you can get access right away to this particular material and you can actually watch it. And in fact, I've also created a free video so that you can actually have access to the first day of the 7-Day Stop Fighting Challenge absolutely for free. So you can actually drive it, test it, and see if this actually resonates with you, just like it has for so many people who've gone through the program now and have had massive results in as little as the first day and throughout the course of those 7 days in the challenge. And the link down here is going to be alivepartner.com SF7 Day 1. alivepartner.com SF7 Day 1. And if you can't really find a link or it's not working for you, you basically send us a message. It's like, hey, I want to have that day for free, and we'll be able to connect with you and send it to you, no problem. I want you to have access to that. Try it at absolutely no cost to you, so you really start understanding and using these tools right away in your life because it's really that powerful. But when we're in that stormy phase, what I have found after so many decades of dealing with this is we have to have some very specific tools that are going to help you to be able to get out of that. And when we actually go into the challenge and some of the teachings that I have, and I also share this in the newsletter, one of the really important parts of it, and I'll just give you a little tip on that, is actually what is the vision that you have for this particular relationship, for this union. And I have found that the 99.99999% of people and couples do not spend not even 10 minutes really thinking and feeling into what is the purpose of us coming together. So being able to create that common vision is going to be one of the most powerful things that I teach about how to actually get out of this break phase. As we go beyond the break phase, and like I said, there's more to that in the challenge itself. Then we start to go into that phase where the storm basically is going away. And we're starting to get into the skies are becoming a lot clearer now. The stormy phase is passing. There may be some remnants up in the air. There may be some clouds, there may be some emotions, some feelings that are still brewing in you. But that acute part of the upheaval is actually moving away, and you're actually going into a whole different space because of it. You may be hurt, you may not be feeling great, you may not be talking to each other, but you're not actively engaging that piece, that break phase that we talk about. And in this phase of this model, where you identify yourself as where are you in that walk, in that journey, is about the healing phase. And there are very specific tools right there too that allow you to actually be able to work on that phase you're in after you've identified where you're at, so that you can continue to be on this ascension path of feeling better and better. And one of the tips and tools that is really, really powerful that I talk about in the challenge, and I share with my members in the community, and I'm going to share with you, is a concept of space walking. And if you've never heard about it, it's not that we're trying to make you be an astronaut or anything like that, but it's the concept of creating space. So this is a really important one because very often, especially if you're a man listening to this, we just want to hammer the situation away. We just want to be able to fix the problem, fix whatever is here, so that we can move on as quickly as we can and just put everything behind us quickly. But the fact of the matter is, after we've gone through this stormy phase, even if you take nature as the example, it doesn't happen instantaneously, right? There is this process that is happening before everything clears up away. And human beings were not any different. And the spacewalking speaks specifically to the aspect of creating the physical space, meaning I'm just going to walk away from this room where possibly the conflict took place. Maybe within the house, I'm just going to take a walk, and I'm going to go out there, and I'm just going to vent and air and be completely immersed in a different physical experience by being outside of the place where this happened. And this creates a very different relationship with yourself, where you can process a lot of the feelings, emotions that you may be having, maybe the anger, frustration, the confusion of what has just happened. But it also is a tremendous gift for the other person to have some of that as well. So the more space there is in between the two people, the less chances of creating friction. And friction, as we know, if you put your hands together and you rub them, generates a lot of heat. And this is one of those phases where we're trying to dissipate all that heat so that new awarenesses come in, new ideas come in, new feelings can be generated, so that as you move into the next phase, you can actually create something completely different. So we've been talking in this model here in Life Partner to stop fighting. We've been talking about the aspect of the second uh, portion of the model, which is the heal phase of the model, the heal phase. So we've already introduced the aspect of the break phase of the model, where the conflict is just at its highest peak. There are tools and tips in there. And we talked about visioning for your union, for your relationship. What is the purpose? What is the why, right? Then we move into another tool that can be implemented in this journey of the model in the heal phase, which is the space walk. And please bear with me that as I am speaking about all of this, there are more components into each phase of the break, heal, strengthen model that I'm sharing here with you. But these are some tips and tools so that you can actually start engaging this process and start really thinking about and internalizing what's possible here. After we move away from the heal phase of the model, then we go into, for me, what is actually one of my favorite pieces of it, because I tend to think of it as such. If we think of people being in the hospital, right, and something happened, there was a car accident, or maybe somebody needed surgery, all of those things are part of what we call the acute phase of living. Something really dramatic has happened, something that if it's not really taken care of, it's going to create a lot of other challenges downstream. Some of them can happen really quickly. For example, somebody having an overwhelming infection, and if we don't start to figure out what is the source of the infection and treat it, well, we can die, right? So this is a very acute problem. It's just right here, right now. But as we go beyond that, which is what happens in most people's lives, we're not living in that hurricane like moment. We're not living in this moment where we're just about to die. And if we don't do something, it's the end of it. No, the majority of people, we're living in a phase where things are not acute. You're kind of, in daily stuff that happens every day. In most people in their relationships, this is how they're doing it. But what's really interesting that I've discovered after almost 30 years of looking into these things is the fact that most people don't do anything when nothing is happening, right? So essentially, you're in the acute phase and, oh my gosh, I have to do something about this right now because otherwise, there's going to be a big conflict, or we already had a big conflict. Maybe we're thinking about, this is going to lead to separation, divorce, we're going to break up the relationship. Not really awesome. But what about the times when none of that is happening? Well, it's a missed opportunity if we're not really doing something about it. And that is why in this model, the third component of it is what's called the strengthen phase of the model. And this is the third and last piece. So we've talked about the break as the first phase. The second phase of the model is a heal phase. And now over here, we have the third phase of the model, which is the strengthen phase. Okay. And I want you to really internalize this, because this is the portion of your life where most of us are living in. There's nothing that is about to kill us, there's nothing about to break us apart. And this is the moment where we have to take the time to build. And this is like building a muscle, right? You have to think about that. If you're not exercising that muscle is not going to develop, it's not going to get stronger. And when you really need it, you're not going to have it. And I like to think about this as we're using this model, the break, heal, and strengthen model, to strengthen ultimately our love muscle. And that love muscle has to do with our awareness, has to be with our intuition when we need it, has to do with our communication style. It has to do with our patience to deal with the other when things are just not working out for us, so that we can weather these moments with as little damage as possible to the relationship, to your feelings, to the other person's feelings. And this is a really important piece. And in the link that I gave you for test driving the 7-day Stop Fighting Challenge, I speak very much at length about this particular tool, which is a tool of creating a special event for you and your partner. And if this is something that is resonating with you, or perhaps you have never really done this deliberately, consciously, to create an experience, I'm going to ask you to go ahead and click on that link so you can get access to that free day. Because I like to think of it as started with the end in mind, right? When we're having the problems, we can't think of getting out of them. Having good moments, it seems like it's impossible or so far away. But when we have an idea of what that can do for you and how you can create it, it's a lot easier to be able to think ahead and put yourself in that moment, visualize what's possible when you're in that strengthened phase. And in this particular exercise and tool that I share for the strengthened phase, it really changes dramatically what happens between the two of you and what gets to be created in that moment, in that special date. And the really fun part is that it's not just like a one-off situation. You may be thinking, yeah, dates, whatever, that everybody has done that. Well, the fact of the matter is, no, actually, that's not the case. The more I have talked to people through decades about what happens when we get older in terms of the relationship, the length of time that we spend together, there is a decadence, there is a downsloping sort of trend in terms of the activities that drew us together in the beginning, right? You get really excited about going out, having a date, getting dressed up. Maybe if you're a guy, you're buying some flowers, picking up exactly where you're going to go, coming up with some special ideas about things that are going to happen in that moment. And then as time goes on, it's like, okay, it's all gone by the wayside. So this last aspect of the model, the break, heal, strengthen model, is all about building ourselves up in the relationship by yourself, letting the other person do the same thing, so that we can continue to have this, instead of going down like in the beginning, to actually go up in the degree of joy, connection, in the degree of fulfillment that comes from the relationship. And this is really, really powerful to do because it changes completely the dynamic of how we see the timeline of the relationship. How do we see our impact and what we have to contribute to the other person as we are finding ourselves in this journey of relating to one another? But what I'm really most excited about, what has happened with the people who've done the journey of the 7 Day Stop Fighting Challenge, is what has happened in the relationships, how they have been able, despite being together for a long time in some cases, to be able to rekindle, to be able to reconnect, to be able to turn that vibing together again. And that is just such a powerful thing. We just simply forget, or maybe we haven't learned how to do that. And now, because of being exposed to this particular model, you'll be able to find yourself in that walk of the problem. Where are you? You see? And am I in the break phase? Am I in the heal phase? Am I in the strengthen phase? And the strengthen phase, in terms of the weather pattern and how I like to think of it, this is the phase where we have clear skies again. So you went from the stormy pattern into the passing away storm, and now clear skies are here again. And that is a fun part that we can enjoy. If this has been resonating with you, I'm going to invite you to click on the link so you can actually get access to this information. It's not going to cost you absolutely anything, but you're going to get tremendous value from it, great insights as well, and something actionable that is fun, easy, and underwhelming to be able to do now. And if this has resonated with you, like, yes, this is absolutely for me. Oh my gosh, you're really speaking to something that I need. I'm going to ask you to click on the link below so you can join us on the 7 Day Stop Fighting Challenge. And my pledge to everybody who's come to do it is that within 7 days, 7 days or less, you'll be able to get results. And that is incredibly powerful. So you're not alone. This absolutely works, and you can get benefits from it right now. If you have liked what you've actually heard today and you're new to us, welcome once again, and click on the subscribe button, like it, and share it. Some of the most important things in my life have been things that somebody has shared with me. Somebody just had the courage to say, hey, Mario, take a look at this, read it, watch it, or so on. And you, just like I have for others, can be the catalyst, can be the agent that changed somebody's life because you brought something to their attention that really resonated with them. And they learned a tip, a tool, something simple that they put into action. And suddenly, boom, huge change. And like I said in the beginning, change can happen in an instant. There is plenty of evidence in our lives that this is the case. And in my life as a radiologist and looking at so many studies, particularly functional imaging studies where we see brain activity happening when people are exposed to different stimuli, I have seen how powerful it is to see actual physical changes that are happening instantaneously. And even after listening to this and watching this, your brain and your experience is completely changing. That's called neuroplasticity. Your brain is just remodeling because of new memories that are being created, new experiences, new different visualization things that you're imagining as you're hearing some of this happen. So no, please, 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 please know that changes do happen. People do change, can change, and it can all happen in an instant. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you're watching the replay right now, just go ahead, leave me a comment. Is there something that is resonating with you or is not? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I would love to hear what you have to say and where you're tuning in. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe so that you can continue to have access to this content that is intended to enhance how all of us relate to one another and have incredible experiences in our relationships. Until next time, I am Dr. Mario, founder of AlivePartner.com, and I can't wait to see you next time. Please don't forget, if you are not aware of this, that every Friday we go live on Instagram at 1:30 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you did not catch me live today, join me on Friday, do it live, and you have questions about this material that you saw today or something else from other videos that you have seen, go ahead, show up, say, hey, I'm here. I have a question about something you said. I like to take all the questions. I read every comment, and I can't wait to continue to see you and be part of your journey as we learn and grow together. Until next time, have a great day and see you on our next episode. See you next time.